The system wants you blind. They trained you to be loyal to limitation, to wake up and repeat the same cycle, to master a task so narrow, so repetitive, you'd eventually forget what it felt like to imagine something bigger. They don't need to put you in a cage, as long as you never look beyond the walls. And if you dare question the routine, you'll be told you're irresponsible, ungrateful, or worse, crazy. But what if Napoleon Hill was right? What if the real danger isn't failure, but stagnation? Neglecting to broaden their view has kept some people doing one thing all their lives. Not because they had to, but because they never looked up. There is no tragedy more subtle and more accepted than the man who spends his life inside a routine so familiar. He forgets it's a prison. He wakes up at the same time. He drives the same roads. He performs the same tasks. He speaks the same words. He dreams, if at all, in the confines of what feels realistic. And slowly, year by year, a terrifying transformation occurs. The edges of his vision dissolve. He no longer looks out, up, beyond. He becomes a technician of repetition, a master of the narrow, a prisoner of his own unconscious loyalty to comfort. And the worst part, he believes this is maturity. He calls it responsibility, stability, adulthood. But what he doesn't see is this. He has stopped becoming. Society will applaud your routine. They will call you reliable, consistent, grounded. You show up on time. You pay your bills. You don't ask too many questions. You stay in line. But deep inside, there's a whisper. Was this it? And here lies the great illusion. Repetition is not the same as growth. You can become excellent at one thing and still become nothing at all, because excellence without expansion is comfort in disguise. And comfort, when worshipped long enough, becomes mental decay. Children have it. Artists fight to keep it. But most men lose it. The ability to look beyond what is in front of them, to ask, what if there's more? What else could I be? What haven't I yet dared to explore? The modern world doesn't reward these questions. It punishes them. Question too much, and you're unstable. Change your mind too often, and you're inconsistent. Try something new, and they say, why risk what you already have? But Napoleon Hill knew, neglecting to broaden their view has kept some people doing one thing all their lives. And here's the twist. It wasn't because they had no other talents. It was because they had no vision. Let me be clear. Routine is not the enemy. But when it becomes your identity, it turns from a tool into a trap. You begin to believe, this is just who I am. But no man is one thing. Not truly. You are made of thousands of dormant versions of yourself, hidden under years of sameness. And unless you deliberately seek new experiences, new ideas, new people, new discomforts, those versions die unawakened. And what's left? A shell that smiles politely, that pays taxes, that never gets in trouble, and quietly dies full of unlived lives. This is not about quitting your job. It's not about reckless rebellion. It's about curiosity with consequence. It means reading outside your usual interests, having conversations that make you uncomfortable, trying a skill you've never touched, saying yes to the unknown even when it threatens your comfort. It means catching yourself when you say, that's just not me, and asking, but what if it could be? Because broadening your view is not about abandoning stability. It's about remembering possibility. We live in a world obsessed with mastery. Specialize, they say. Niche down. Get hyper-focused. And yes, mastery has power. But without vision, it becomes a coffin. You dig deeper into a smaller hole, until all you can see is the dirt around you. The most successful men in history, they mastered a lane, yes, but they also dared to step outside it. They read widely. They connected disciplines. They allowed unrelated ideas to fertilize new paths. They refused to die inside a narrow title. If you feel stuck, look wider. If you feel bored, look deeper. If you feel afraid, look anyway, because the world is not lacking in opportunity. It is only lacking men who are willing to see it. You were not made to do one thing your entire life. You were made to become many things and bring them all under the banner of your mission. Your future will not be created by repetition. It will be created the moment you dare to look up and ask, what else is waiting for me? Just outside the lines. I've been told to stay inside. Inside every man, there lives an army of versions. The writer, the leader, the builder, the warrior, the father, the sage, the creator. Some are awake. Most are asleep. Not because you're lazy, not because you're incapable, but because you were never taught to excavate yourself. You were taught to choose one path, one label, one career, and to cling to it even when it shrinks you. But let me tell you something revolutionary. You don't discover who you are. You uncover who you've buried. And the longer you live inside one role, the harder it becomes to hear the others knocking. Unless you begin the work of resurrection. Most people think death happens through failure, but some of the greatest deaths happen through neglect. That business idea you never explored. That creative urge you laughed off. That language you said you'd one day learn. Each ignored spark is a funeral, and most men carry cemeteries in their minds, the graves of versions they never gave a chance to breathe. But those versions don't resent you. They wait, and they whisper, until one day they fall silent. You don't have to burn down your life to become someone new. In fact, true reinvention happens in the small, consistent expansions of self. Read one new book a month from a field outside your own. Join a conversation where you feel underqualified. Wake up 1 hour earlier to pursue something unrelated to your job. These micro-expansions stretch the walls of your identity. They remind your nervous system, I'm allowed to become more. And in time, they accumulate into something undeniable. A man who has range, a man who cannot be boxed, a man who, regardless of the world's opinion, refuses to live. Narrow, one of the most dangerous prisons, success. When people begin to applaud your role, you begin to confuse that applause with purpose. They say, you're so good at this. You've really found your thing. Don't mess it up by chasing something else. And so, in fear of disappointing them, you disappoint yourself. Let me remind you, praise is not always a prophecy. Sometimes, it's a ceiling. The applause you've earned may become the rope that ties you to one version of you forever, unless you choose to evolve anyway. You were not designed to be a title. You were designed to be an expression. And the more of you that you allow to surface, the more power, intelligence, and creativity you access. This doesn't make you scattered. It makes you layered. The most powerful men I've studied, they were rarely just one thing. The philosopher who built empires, the investor who wrote poetry, the strategist who painted landscapes. They dared to be more than society permitted, and the world made room, because the world cannot ignore. A man who refuses to dim any part of himself. Legacy is not built through one lane. It's built through a life fully excavated. When you die, what will they say? He was consistent. He played it safe. He did the same thing for 40 years. Or will they say, he was always becoming? He surprised us, even at the end. He showed us what it means to stay alive. Your legacy is not in your output. It's in your aliveness. And aliveness only comes when you allow more of you to participate in this life. I have spoken to men at the end of their journeys. And do you know what haunts them? Not failure, not risk. What haunts them is what they never tried, what they buried under the banner of responsibility, what they talked themselves out of year after year, until the window closed. But you, if you are reading this, still have time. Time to look deeper, to say yes to a whisper, to awaken a part of you that has waited long enough. The world does not need another man doing one thing forever. It needs a man who is brave enough to say, I am many things, and I will not die with most of me still asleep. Let me be clear with you. You do not owe loyalty to the first version of you the world rewarded. You owe loyalty to your becoming, and becoming requires betrayal, not of your values, but of your past limitations. You were trained to pick a lane, to choose a title, to commit your life to one function, as if your soul were a factory line. But what if that idea, noble as it sounds, is the very reason you feel so lifeless? What if your expansion was never meant to fit into one path? What if your greatness depends on your willingness to destroy the box that gave you your first praise? This is not rebellion. This is responsibility. Most men get trapped in their first success story. The athlete who couldn't stop competing, the soldier who never came home, the entrepreneur who couldn't admit boredom. The reason their early success became their prison guard. Because the world loves consistency. It loves predictability. It loves labels it can understand and categorize. But the man who begins to outgrow that label, he becomes threatening, confusing, lost. No, my friend, you are not lost. You are simply evolving in ways the past can't explain, and that is a sign of life, not failure. Here's the truth few will tell you. Every reinvention offends someone. It might offend your peers, your mentors, your family, even your own ego. Because reinvention forces reflection, and those who benefit from your current version may try to keep you in it. But you were not born to live out someone else's comfort. You were born to fulfill your design, and that design will take many shapes. Some versions of you will make others uncomfortable. Let them be. That's not your burden. That's their boundary. Don't confuse expansion with chaos. You are not abandoning purpose. You are deepening it. There is a thread that runs through all your transformations. It might be truth, or beauty, or impact, or excellence. Whatever it is, let it guide your decisions. Let it hold together the multiple expressions of your genius. Because when you align to that core mission, you can be a strategist who writes poetry, a CEO who trains in martial arts, a builder who paints abstract art, and no one will be confused, because it all comes from the same source. You. We need to stop worshiping one-track lives. The man who worked one job for 50 years, honorable, but not superior. The man who explored many domains, who risked confusion for the sake of expansion, who allowed his soul to try, to fail, to grow. That man is not unstable. He is alive. And more importantly, he becomes an invitation, an example, a walking permission slip for those around him to explore their own range. Because in a world addicted to safety, the man who expands is a revolutionary. Here's what they don't understand. Every time you evolve, you create space for others to do the same. When you go first, you light a path, so don't hide your transitions. Don't downplay your shifts. Don't apologize for growing out of your old container. Stand firm and let the world adjust. Because while some will mock your evolution, others will be set free by it. If you're still trying to build a future from a map drawn by your past, set it on fire. You don't need more certainty. You need more courage to walk into the unknown, to try something irrational, to let your instincts lead where logic has failed. You are not meant to do one thing forever. You are meant to become the kind of man who can do many things because he has built a core that can handle it. So today, declare it. I no longer need permission to evolve. My expansion is not a threat. It is a gift to the world and to myself. There is no final version of you, No point where the clay hardens, and the pot is complete. Only those who stopped molding themselves because they confused exhaustion with destiny. Let me be precise. The moment you stop expanding, you begin decaying. This is not poetic. This is biological, emotional, and spiritual law. You must grow, or you die while standing. Observe nature. The river that keeps moving stays clean. The animal that adapts survives. The forest that burns regenerates stronger. Stagnation is punished. Movement is rewarded. And so it is with you. The moment you broaden your perspective, challenge your assumptions, expand your toolkit, you stop being a consumer of the world and start becoming a co-creator of it. That is your calling. That is your proof of life. You don't have to announce your transformation. You only have to commit to it. Start small. One new conversation each week. One book that challenges your worldview. One project that makes you uncomfortable. Stack those over time, and something miraculous happens. You forget who you were, and start remembering who you are, not by accident, by choice. Every man has a role to play in history, but history only remembers those who refuse to remain one-dimensional. We are not in an age of repetition. We are in an age of reinvention. Those who survive are not the strongest. They are the most flexible. So do not worship the narrow. Worship the authentic. Be the man who builds businesses and families, who pursues wealth and wisdom, who commands the room and retreats to solitude. This balance is rare, which is why it's powerful. You do not need to pick one version of you. You need to build the frame strong enough to hold all of them. You expanding isn't selfish. It's service. When you evolve, you elevate the standard. You invite others to stretch. You make what was once unrealistic now undeniable. The man who breaks his own ceiling makes it easier for others to break theirs. This is your legacy, not what you build, not what you own, but who you became, and how many became more because of you. You were not born to fit. You were born to forge, to stretch your vision, to stretch your voice, to stretch your identity. And when the world tries to shrink you back into a version you've outgrown, smile and say, "That was me. This is also me. And tomorrow, there will be even more of me." Because a man who is always becoming will never be forgotten.